interfered with legislation already passed by the local government. Was anyone on this panel consulted? Any of you? Raise your hand if you were consulted on any of these bills. Yeah.
We were not.
You know, one of the things that, AG, I've been listening to you, one of the bills actually eliminates your position completely. What effect would that have? I mean, completely eliminating your position in regards to be able to do the job that you do to protecting all the families in Washington, D.C.
We'll start with the fact that more than 70% of the residents of the District of Columbia overwhelmingly voted for having an independent elected attorney general.
That's right.
And that's a recognition of the fact that when an attorney general is directly accountable to the people, directly responsive to the people, we are much better at doing our job in terms of addressing housing affordability and conditions in slumlords, seniors, and
What started as a debate over public safety in Washington, D.C., quickly escalated into one of the most heated exchanges of the hearing, exposing how deeply divided lawmakers are over federal power, local control, and the language used to describe it all. During today's committee hearing, Representative Rashida Tlaib of Michigan delivered an impassioned defense of Washington, D.C. residents, warning that congressional efforts to override local laws and expand federal control are not just policy disagreements, but threats to democratic self-rule. If you want more clear and honest breakdowns of moments like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Tlaib from Michigan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really important. I mean, we're talking about, 700,000 people that live here, and I feel like their voice gets completely just dismissed. And so, if I may, Mr. Chair, ask unanimous consent to enter the record. The Washington Post poll of D.C. residents found 8 out of 8 in 10 opposed Trump's taking over of their local police and sending in federal troops.
Without objections ordered.
I think it's also really important to understand, the incredible kind of slanderous, defamation, I don't know what to call it. They're just burying Washington, D.C. You just heard them speak about our nation's capital in that way. In a way that I feel very much like that's not what I see. I see people walking around with their families, people enjoying time to see these beautiful, incredible, beautiful monuments and everything. And there's a pride here too. And so I just want to bring the DC residents into this committee because I feel like they are being made invisible. And this really ugly picture that is not reflective. And I'm from Detroit. I've seen it happen to my city. And it's despicable in a way that I feel like, really goes up against our values. One of the things that I know in every abuse of power that, we let President Trump and the administration get away with in D.C., it will be replicated. It will be expanded across the country, and it is going to tear apart our communities. Mr. Jackson, I talked to you about a little bit about this, but I think it's important to understand that we do have a mental health crisis, that we have a housing crisis, affordability crisis. Can you police any of those away?
No.
You can't police away homelessness. And the way they talk about our homeless neighbors is so, no wonder there's violence increasing towards homeless neighbors. I see it already, the brutality of it. When we see housing costs go up, when we see, again, the lack or dismissiveness of the mental health crisis that we continue to grow. And it's not just this administration, and the previous administrations as well. No one has moved with the urgency that is needed. Just last week, the committee approved over a dozen bills regarding Washington, D.C. And, I'm just curious. Criminalize children. My colleague from Boston talked about this. It basically interfered with legislation already passed by the local government. Was anyone on this panel consulted? Any of you? Raise your hand if you were consulted on any of these bills. Yeah.
We were not.
One of the things that, AG, I've been listening to you, one of the bills actually eliminates your position completely. What effect would that have? Completely eliminating your position in regards to be able to do the job that you do to protecting all the families in Washington, D.C.
We'll start with the fact that more than 70% of the residents of the District of Columbia overwhelmingly voted for having an independent elected attorney general.
That's right.
And that's a recognition of the fact that when an attorney general is directly accountable to the people, directly responsive to the people, we are much better at doing our job in terms of addressing housing affordability and conditions in slumlords, seniors and consumers who are being scammed, addressing the issues that are most important to DC residents, because I am accountable to
I read
them.
wage theft is an issue, workplace discrimination. I mean, there's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and they're not going to address that. They want to paint you all as this ugly, dark, all just out in the street. I mean, the way it's just unbelievable because they all live here. I don't see it. I don't see what they see. I don't understand why we're allowing that to happen, because I actually think it's going to hurt our communities. People are going to look at Washington, D.C. folks in a way that I think is going to be very painful, but also, you know, I don't know, Mr. Jackson, I heard the stories. People didn't leave their homes. They weren't leaving their homes. Businesses didn't see people coming into, I mean, that's what we want in our nation's capital. Stay in your house, don't move, don't go anywhere, stay fearful. It's unbelievable that my colleagues continue again to eject this narrative and this rhetoric in regards to it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in DC, home rule was one out of Black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights, we can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say like so personally as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process, not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in DC and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames and or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair, but you all live
like
here,
Mr.
and
Tlaib.
you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our
Mr.
nation's
Tlaib.
capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think
Wrong.
it's insane that the
But you're
gentlelady
gonna
doesn't
look
have
at
an
the
argument,
Washington
but she's going to
DC as a
refer
bunch
to
of
me and some of my
criminals.
colleagues.
Mr. Donalds.
We were from
You
the
know
Third
this.
Reich. This is
You're
insane.
gonna look at
It's
14,
insane.
15-year-olds as
It's
a bunch of
insane.
criminals?
It's insane.
Oh.
Do I look
you're
like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms.
Please,
Tlaib?
please,
Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold
Washington,
myself
D.C.
accountable.
Mr. Tlaib.
Washington, D.C.
Hold your
out
own
of your
self
mouth.
accountable. How
Keep
about
it out of
that?
your mouth.
Hold your own
I'm
self
trying,
accountable.
Mr.
How about
Tlaib.
that?
Free DC and make sure you
All right.
vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody
Mr.
else.
Tlaib. All right, time. Chair recognizes Ms. Boebert from Colorado. Order. Wait a minute, Ms. Boebert. All right.
Tlaib opened by reminding the committee that more than 700,000 people live in the nation's capital, yet do not have voting representation in Congress. She cited polling showing that a strong majority of D.C. residents oppose federal takeovers of local policing and the deployment of federal troops without local consent. Her message was simple but pointed. D.C. residents are being talked about, legislated over, and criticized without being meaningfully heard. She pushed back forcefully against what she described as exaggerated and harmful portrayals of Washington as lawless or unsafe. Drawing from her own experience representing Detroit, Tlaib warned that repeatedly framing a city as dangerous does real damage, discouraging businesses, fueling fear, and justifying aggressive government intervention that often harms the very communities it claims to protect. Subscribe if you value reporting that connects policy decisions to real human consequences. Tlaib also challenged the idea that increased policing can solve deeper systemic problems. She emphasized that homelessness, mental health crises, and housing affordability cannot be policed away, arguing that criminalizing poverty only increases violence and instability. She noted that recent legislation affecting D.C. had been passed without consulting local officials or experts who worked directly with residents, raising concerns about accountability and effectiveness. The tension escalated when Tlaib referred to what she called a fascist takeover of local governance, arguing that stripping D.C. of its autonomy mirrors historical abuses of power. That language immediately triggered a fierce response from Representative Byron Donalds of Florida, who took offense at the implication. Donalds pushed back sharply, saying that comparing members of Congress to authoritarian regimes was insulting and inappropriate. He rejected the accusation outright, calling it radical and out of line, and demanded accountability for the rhetoric being used. The exchange grew increasingly heated as voices were raised and order in the hearing briefly broke down. What this clash revealed goes far beyond personal offense. It highlighted a fundamental disagreement about the role of Congress in governing Washington, D.C., whether federal intervention protects residents or silences them, and how far lawmakers should go in using charged language to describe political actions. These debates are not abstract. They shape policing policy, housing enforcement, economic development, and civil rights for hundreds of thousands of people. As Congress continues to debate D.C. governance, moments like this show just how high the stakes are and how quickly policy discussions can turn into ideological battles. If you want continued coverage that explains not just what lawmakers say, but what it actually means for people on the ground, be sure to subscribe and stay informed.